This is it, the best part of your day and the best part of ours. Welcome to Inspired Sports, your place for clean sports talk with real inspiration. I'm Alex Pratt alongside the Scott Jakeway.
Alex, every time we do this, it feels like we just did the last episode. And I just am so excited every time we get to come in front of the camera and get to do a podcast together. How are you doing, my
I'm
friend?
doing really, really good. I am getting a strong sense of deja vu. And that may
Right.
be, listen, we just need to be honest with our listeners. We are actually filming this episode immediately after the last episode. And that's because it is the week of Thanksgiving. But we didn't want to short all of our listeners. We appreciate that you take the time to listen. So we try to do our very best to be available to you twice a week. But with Thanksgiving this week and some family vacation time that Scott and I have planned the following week, we wanted to make sure we did an extra podcast tonight.
Yeah.
And it will be posted not this Monday. You'd think I'd have the date, but off the top of my head, I don't.
December
something
1st,
I want to say. Yeah. So we'll have an episode 1 week from our previous episode. So we hope that you're maybe driving back from your vacation and you're like, hey, man, I
Yeah.
wish I had something awesome and inspirational to listen to. And here we are. And we're going to do something we have never done before. We are not going to cover any news because it hasn't happened yet.
We don't know.
We don't actually know. And so we're actually going to, instead of doing our trademark segment, which is, did that just happen? We're going to do, did that ever happen? As Scott and I talk about some of our favorite moments in NFL history. And we have a little extra segment at the end that I think we'll keep tucked in our back pocket, and we'll let them know as they continue to listen. And as always, we'll have the thing that makes us who we are, which is the moment of truth, a great biblical devotion led by Scott Jakeway at the very conclusion of this podcast. But first, my friend, Scotty Jakeway, I have to ask you, did that ever happen? I need to know, my friend, your favorite football moment from your favorite team, your beloved Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, this is so easy. Of course, it would be easy to say all of the championships that they won and all of the crazy
Long time ago. Those ones they
1990s.
won a
Yeah, I
long
mean,
time ago.
the dynasty that they were in the 90s. But that would have never happened had it not been for the greatest moment of the Dallas Cowboys, which is something that is commonly referred to as the Great Train Robbery. Because depending on what side of the ball you're on, what team you are a fan of, it was either the best trade ever made or it was the absolute worst trade ever made. To set this up, it was October of 1989, and Herschel Walker was dominating, and good old Jerry Jones coming in.
The gambler showed up.
As he always has, and said, hey, we're going to trade him away to the Minnesota Vikings. And at the time, they're like, oh, okay. And they got a trainload of draft picks and players. And it is what completely set them up. They got Emmitt Smith from that draft. They got Darren Woodson from that draft. Let's see, who else did they get? They got who was the other one? Oh, Russell Maryland from that draft. They eventually got other players through trades from the draft.
I believe
picks.
You might know as a Cowboys fan. I believe Darren Woodson made the Hall of Fame.
He did.
He did. Multiple Hall of Famers in one trade out of draft
one trade.
picks.
And it set them up to be the dynasty that they were in the 90s. They were a terrible team in 1989. I think if memory serves me correct, they were like 1-15. They were terrible. And then they quickly turned that all around, all because good old Jerry Jones. We just talked about this in the last episode.
Look who's trying to make amends with Jerry. You're trying.
Yeah.
My favorite moment of all time was a trade made by Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is the best trader ever.
He knows exactly what he's doing, even when everyone else gives him incredible flack for it. But no, that absolutely has to be my greatest memory moment. But Alex Pratt, what is your favorite moment from your Kansas City Chiefs?
From my beloved Kansas City Chiefs, my favorite sports moment was very short. I mean, almost you'd wonder, like, how could it even be your favorite moment? Because it only lasted 13 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. My favorite moment in Chiefs history wasn't any of the Super Bowls that Patrick Mahomes has won. None of those three, not even the one in overtime, not the first one. The first time I watched my team win the Super Bowl. My favorite moment in my team's history is watching Patrick Mahomes do what no one had ever done before and what no one thought was possible, which was there's 13 seconds left as the Buffalo Bills are kicking the ball off in the 2022 divisional playoff round, and they are receiving the ball and they are losing and they need a field goal to win. And in 13 seconds, Patrick Mahomes just, I don't know any other phrase to use. I'm not trying to be graphic here, but Patrick Mahomes just ripped their heart out and threw it on the field
Yeah.
of every Bills player and of every Bills fan, because he threw two passes and they were to his two stars, one to Travis Kelce, one to Tyreek Hill, and they kicked a field goal and they went on to the AFC Championship the next week, and it was just absolutely glorious. And the reason it's my favorite moment, last thing I'll say, because I talk a lot about the Chiefs on this podcast, my favorite moment, Scott, because it was the moment where it's like now every game after, I truly believe, I'm not being silly, I believe anything's possible. You know, Patrick Mahomes is down 21 points in a playoff game to the Houston Texans. Don't care. We're coming back.
Yep.
Don't care.
Yep.
17 straight one-score games. We're going to be the winner. And they set the record, right? That's why this year's been really hard for me. I watched them lose 5 one-score games in a row. But, like, it doesn't matter. Oh, the Super Bowl's going to overtime? No problem. Chiefs are going to win.
Doesn't matter.
It was the game that made me go, Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback I've always wanted. He makes it always possible. And there have been other guys in the past that kind of give you that feeling. I think Brady gave that feeling to a lot of Patriots fans. I think Favre gave that feeling to a lot of Packers fans. But nothing like, hey, 13 seconds, you've got no shot, 2 passes and a kicked field goal to win the game. Beautiful.
It was I can't argue with that. That was a great game. I loved watching it. As much as I can't stand the Kansas City Chiefs, that was
Wait a minute. You have moved
a great.
into can't stand territory?
I mean,
Are you a full-on
I-
Chiefs hater now? Is it because of this podcast?
it's because they beat the Colts the way they did. It's because
Oh,
they win every single game by like a field goal. It's like they get every other team that plays them, they get their hopes up and they rip them down.
that is the
So
very
I mean,
best.
it's kind of like the Yankees.
Oh,
It's kind of
I
like
like
the
that.
Lakers.
That's a compliment and another
Uh,
compliment.
you hate after a while when a team does what they do so many times. It's like, okay, good job. Okay, now I can't stand you.
I mean,
So
honestly, we should bond over this. We've never, ever talked about this in real life of all of our sports talks. We've never talked about what I'm about to
yeah,
say or on this podcast. Your team and my team have just absolutely made every Buffalo Bills fan sadder than anyone in history. Like the Cowboys of the 90s and the Chiefs of the 2020s have just
yeah,
absolutely punished every Buffalo Bills fan for ever having chosen to root for them.
yeah. It's you're not lying.
You guys did it on epic stages. You guys did it in the Super
Yeah,
Bowl. My Chiefs, my
multiple
Chiefs
times.
team just won't let them get to the Super Bowl.
We did it, when it wasn't even cool. Now it's cool to like just destroy the Buffalo Bills. We did it when, it wasn't even a cool thing
Come
to
on,
do.
tell me you remember the
But
acronym. I'm not even gonna tell you what it is. Do you remember the Bills acronym from the 90s?
no.
As a Cowboys fan, you should. Boy, I
Okay.
love losing Super Bowls, Bills. You don't remember that?
I don't. That's amazing.
That's right. It's all up here.
That's a
In
good
case you
one.
thought this was
That's
full
a
of a
good
lot of
one.
useful knowledge, it is not. A lot of
Nope.
useless knowledge up there behind that gray hair. Let me ask you
That's a
another,
good
did
one.
that ever happen, Scott Jakeway? Did that
Okay.
ever happen?
Okay.
Tell me your favorite moment in football history that's not from your beloved Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, it's easy. And once again, it includes the Buffalo Bills.
I didn't know
It
that.
is the Music City Miracle,
Oh.
setting the stage January 8th, 2000. The Buffalo Bills are in the AFC wildcard game against the Tennessee
Mhm.
Titans, and they kick a field goal to go up 16-15 with 16 seconds left. And you think, "Oh my, they're on their way to another Super Bowl." and they're going to win this game in epic fashion at the end of the game. And then they kick off, and the next 16 seconds becomes their worst nightmare because after a series of events, they see the Tennessee Titans throw the ball to Kevin Dyson
That's right.
with a lateral that runs it back for 75 yards for a touchdown to win the game, and it was absolute beauty. You talked about your 13 seconds with the Kansas City Chiefs. I would just like to say the Tennessee Titans walked so your Kansas City Chiefs could run these last second games. It was amazing. I loved it. And as a Dallas Cowboys fan, anytime we see the Buffalo Bills lose in epic fashion, you can't hate on it. So
Bill
it had to be my favorite game without my
Bills
Dallas
fans are
Cowboys.
still screaming that it was a forward pass. You know that, right? That
Uh,
Frank Wycheck
yeah.
did not throw that ball backwards, that he or even lateral, that he threw it slightly forward to Kevin Dyson.
It is what it is.
I would tell people to check the footage, but it's very grainy. I thought it looked
I was gonna
great. I
say,
thought it looked great back in the day, but now I'm like, oh, it's awful.
I mean, when you're arguing for a quarter of a century over something, you might,
Wow,
yeah. But Alex, I have to wonder, what's your favorite moment, not including your Kansas City Chiefs? Do you even have one? I
I
figured
mean,
all of your favorite memories
they've
were
given
with
me a
Kansas
lot of
City.
great memories in the last 5 years, but keep in mind, I have been a Chiefs fan since 1993 when Joe Montana left
Okay.
the 49ers. I was a 49er fan, but when Joe Montana left, where I was living at the time, I was growing up, and the Chiefs games were the games that were on. And
Yeah.
so Joe
Yeah.
Montana left the 49ers, same time that I had moved near the Kansas City Chiefs region of television distribution. And so I started rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs. And so I've lived through a lot of bad quarterbacks. I've lived through a lot of bad Kansas City Chiefs teams. So I'm not a Johnny come lately. I've enjoyed the last 7 years of Patrick Mahomes. But I've lived through Elvis Gerback and Steve Bono and Brody Croyle and the mediocrity that is Alex Smith and Trent Green and a lot of bad teams. So all of that said, you're asking my
Mm,
favorite moment that's not from my team, and that is very simple.
yes.
There's one team that you talk about not wanting to see a team dominate. I rooted very, very strongly against the New England Patriots of the Tom Brady era. And so watching Tom Brady and the New England Patriots lose to a backup quarterback, Nick Foles, of the Eagles in the Super
Oh,
Bowl,
yeah.
and just the cherry on top, that beautiful little Philly special that they threw in there. And so I just that was amazing to me because it seemed so insurmountable, and it was just nice to watch.
I agree. That was a fun one to watch. As much as I don't like the Eagles, there's one team I hate worse, and that's the
There it
Patriots.
is.
Yeah. And so, yeah, when you have 2 teams that you just can't stand playing each other, you root for the lesser of 2 evils, and that was the Eagles
That was
in that moment,
definitely the
and
Eagles.
yeah. Yeah, I loved it. Good job.
So let me ask you just one more. Did that ever happen? Scotty Jakeway, here it comes.
Okay,
Did
okay.
that ever happen? Least favorite football moment.
Mm,
Least favorite
yeah.
football moment.
We're gonna take it back to the Dallas Cowboys because there is one moment that I just cannot stand. It's my least favorite of all of the Dallas Cowboys moments that I know and remember, and that is simply the NFC Championship game in 1995 against the San Francisco 49ers, where the San Francisco 49ers go up 21-0 and eventually win 38-28 and stop my Dallas Cowboys from a potential a triple-peat, a tri-peat, I don't know what they
The
call it, winning
repeat.
3 chip the tri-peat where you win 3 in a row,
They tried to win
they
three. They didn't get there.
they tried and they failed epically. But if you, I saw something where they asked like the 50 or 60 greatest moments in Dallas Cowboys history, and Michael Irving, Troy Aikman, and Emmitt Smith all agreed this was probably one of, if not the most impactful moments to them as players. And so, if it's good enough for them to be the least favorite moment, then it's got to be mine as well. So, but Alex, how about you?
For me, it would be the New England back to the Patriots. My least favorite moment
Oh,
has to involve the Patriots. The Patriots Super Bowl against the Atlanta Falcons, where they came back and
uh,
created the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history. Now, listen, the reason why I could get into the game, but here's the real reason why. Scott, I was dog sick. I was the kind of sick where you're actually
That'll
shivering.
do
You're
it.
under a blanket in like a 72-degree house, but you're under a
Yeah.
blanket shivering. And I stayed up to watch the game. I actually even had people over, which I probably shouldn't have because I was super sick. We had people over and I'm like shivering. They're like, "Is he okay? Should we pray for him?" I'm like, "Just need Brady to lose." And so I stayed up because I was so excited. I was like, I was going to watch Brady lose. And then he actually ends up pulling off the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history. And I went to bed and I was just like, I cannot believe I stayed up for that. I had a fever. Like, I had a legit fever. Like that, like 102, 103 fever, like shivers. Like it was, I wasn't like, like I was one of the sickest times of my life. I was like, I'm not missing the Super Bowl. And then it started off so great and ended so horribly.
Yeah, that would do it. I mean, not to mention Tom Brady doing something like that, but also
Yeah.
being, like, super
Should
sick.
have
Yeah,
just gone to bed.
that'll create your least favorite moment. But, I liked that. That was fun to kinda live back in time, revisit some of our highs and lows as fans. But being this is a special, episode, I think there's only one other thing that we could do for a second segment,
Okay.
and it's a little segment we have, deemed "Gimme the
Give me the
Goat."
goat.
And we've done some of these, segments in this season where we're talking, like who's potentially going to be this award or that award, and who's going to win the Super Bowl. But what better way to do a second segment on an episode like this than talk about our greats, the goats
Well, yeah, it's
of
fun,
different
right? Because
positions.
we always do
Yeah,
news-related content, what's happening because there's always so
yeah,
much happening and so much to cover that we don't get to talk historically or greatest of all time,
yeah.
and come on, that's some of the most fun sports talk there is just arguing over who's the greatest.
Yeah, I agree. So, the first one, let me hear it, Alex. And here's the rule. We did make up a rule, because it's our show, so we get to do
We
whatever we
make the
want.
rules.
This is our segment, so don't argue with us. I don't want to hear any text
No, I
messages
do.
about
I
that's
want
not
my
fair.
phone,
No,
to blow up. I want
yeah.
people to fill up our email and to message us on social media. I wanna know. I wanted to see how angry we can make them.
Well, then I'm assuming that we might get 1 or 2 from this. So, the rule is if we agree on the greatest of all time for a category,
Mm,
we have to give our
yeah,
second.
good call.
So if I shoot one out to you, "Hey, what's the greatest blank?" and you say it, and it's also mine, I'll let you know, and we have to immediately jump into who would be number 2
That is
on
a
our
great
list.
call. Good plan.
So, all right, just so that way we're not agreeing, but at the same time also being fair and not coming up with just some
Yeah,
random goat just because we didn't want to agree.
sure.
So, because I think that's fair. So the first one, I assume we're going to agree on, but we'll just move on if it is the greatest quarterback of all time. Uh,
Can I give my
l-
answer for, like, for the year
yeah,
2035? Because if we're gonna
sure,
wait till 2035, my answer would be different, but it's for today, so I will
yeah.
admit the greatest quarterback of all time is Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Okay.
Yeah, I figured we were going to agree on that one. So, on this category, what would be your second
I would
best?
just like to point out that earlier I talked about being able to do things no one had ever done before, and that man and his name is
Exactly.
Patrick Mahomes. I know he
Oh,
has 3 Super Bowls and 5 appearances. I can go through his career stats, but no one wants to sit in this podcast and hear me talk about stats. The truth is that man strikes fear in the hearts of everyone. They go into the 4th quarter petrified because he is a bad man.
no. There's one quarterback that Patrick Mahomes is looking up to if it's other than Tom Brady, and that is simply Joe Montana. He's 4-0. He also, fun stat, he is 11 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in those 4 Super Bowls, which I'm pretty sure I'd be interested to hear if Patrick Mahomes did something of that nature. But Patrick Mahomes is looking up to the Joe Montana. Joe Montana is classic. He's the OG. He's the one that created it all. It sounds like he may have been the one that created you as a Kansas City
It
fan.
absolutely is.
So
If
if
you
there's
saw my bedroom
yeah,
as a kid, it
so
was covered in Joe Montana
yeah,
football cards and Joe
so
Montana jerseys and Joe Montana
yeah,
random memorabilia. So you're not going to get any argument from me if you prefer Joe Montana at this point, and you're going to hold on to that the measure of greatness in by an individual in a team sport has to do with the outcome of championships only, then fine. If you're going to go by just a championship count, you can do that. But as far as career statistics, you talk about how he played in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes is already like a million miles past the career passing statistics of Joe Montana. It's a totally different age and a totally different era. And I'd like to point out Patrick Mahomes does have what I believe is the greatest tight end of all time, but he ain't Jerry Rice, bro. Joe Montana was thrown to Jerry Rice for most of his career. I mean,
yeah.
that's a nice gift.
Speaking of which,
Okay.
speaking of nice gifts, that was a nice segue into my next category, which is the greatest wide receiver all time. And I think you
Even
named
more
him.
than Tom Brady, I think we have to agree.
Yeah,
This is Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we're not going to argue that one. Okay, so second greatest of
So,
all time.
you and I have a friend, and I actually live near him, who often references my fandom of this person because he cannot stand this athlete, and it's Terrell Owens. So shout out to my friend Danny. Danny, T.O. is the second greatest receiver of all time. He is third all time, and he is third all
Wow.
time in receiving yards. He was unstoppable for a period of time. He could run any route. He could always get open. He had a 20 catch game. Listen, I'm gonna name off some quarterbacks that I don't think can get 20 completions in a game. That's Daniel Jones and Bo Nix and Kyler Murray and Bryce Young and JJ McCarthy. But just by himself, Terrell Owens did that. And if I remember correctly, forgive me for not knowing for sure. If any of our listeners want to fact check me, you can. But I think he did that in a game with Jeff Garcia. Now, no
I
hate, no
think that
hate to
was the
Jeff
quarterback.
Garcia, but I think that 20 reception game came from Jeff Garcia, who is a perfectly
Yeah.
average quarterback. It's not like he was catching passes from a Hall of Famer, in which that game he had 20 receptions. Terrell Owens was an absolute beast, and he also had some of the greatest end zone celebrations ever. I mean, the
The
popcorn,
Sharpie,
the popcorn in the
yeah.
face, like, come on. He
Yeah.
ran out to the star. You may or may not remember that. Didn't he run out to
Oh,
the star when he was a 49er?
that was close on my least favorite moment earlier because that
That
one
was him,
was
right? I'm not
yeah,
misremembering
that
that?
was oh no, it was
Okay.
him and he did this and
He
so
got
I can't remember
smashed
what
by
cowboy
who
that
we
he
just
got
talked to. Wasn't it
smashed.
Darren Woodson?
It may have been Darren
Listen,
Woodson,
we're gonna
yeah.
get fact checked on this. We'll
Yeah.
be like, you guys don't remember anything.
Anything. You just remember the bits and pieces. But there's one wide receiver that's better than
Who?
T.O. other than Jerry Rice, and that is Larry Fitzgerald. You said T.O. was third in
Wow.
receiving yards, and Larry Fitzgerald is number 2 in receiving yards.
Fitz.
And there's one fact that will stick with me of all time, and this is why he was my pick without even questioning, is out of all of the targets that Larry Fitzgerald had, did you know, Alex Pratt, that out of I think it was like 2,300 targets, which by the way, he played all of his seasons in Arizona, which don't even get me started with that. What a wasted career he may have had if he had played somewhere else. But out of 2,300 targets, did you know he only had 29 drops and he had 41 tackles? That man had more tackles than
You know he
he
wasn't
had
playing special teams. He
drops.
had more those tackles had to be on fumbles or interceptions from an awful Cardinals
40
team.
41 tackles
I
compared to
have to give you
29
kudos for
drops.
that, Scotty. That is
That
the
is a
one of the
stat that
best stats you have ever used on this podcast. That Larry
hands
Fitzgerald
down,
has more career tackles than he does drops. That's amazing. I thought you
it's
were going to tell me this if I can get one thing in on Fitz, because if you don't
yeah.
like Fitz, he's
Yeah,
also
yeah.
like the most beloved, nicest guy in the history of the NFL. So
Yep,
I just want to say really quickly that we talked about Jerry Rice catching passes from Joe Montana. Terrell Owens had Jeff Garcia, but he also had Donovan McNabb. He
yep,
spent some time in Dallas with it was Tony Romo threw passes to him, right? And
yep.
so they played with good, if not great, quarterbacks. Larry Fitzgerald had a short period of time with Carson Palmer, right? Other
Yep.
than those
Yep.
few years, which they made a run to a Super Bowl, he did not play with good
Kurt
quarterbacks.
Warner.
Was it Kurt Warner
He
who
had
took him to
Kurt
the Super
Warner.
Bowl? So
Kurt
he had
Warner
a
took him
few
to the
years
Super
with
Bowl,
Kurt
yeah.
Warner and a few years with Carson Palmer, who had been on multiple teams before that. So those were
Yep.
good quarterbacks. But I think of all the quarterbacks we're talking about, I mean, next on the list, if we were going to argue, is we probably agree Randy Moss. And Randy Moss
Oh,
got
yeah.
to play
Randy Moss,
with Tom Brady,
yeah.
got to play with Randall Cunningham, got to play with Dante Culpepper. Larry Fitzgerald probably played with the worst quarterbacks of anyone in the top 5.
Hands down, and that's why I say if he could have played on any other team, he would have been a scary, scary dude because he was already, I mean, Hall of Famer, hands down. But that was with a other than 2008 and maybe 1 or 2 other seasons, terrible
But he
quarterbacks.
didn't have any good end zone celebrations, and that matters with a
He didn't.
receiver.
He didn't, but that's just how much of a nice guy he was. He was just too much of a likable guy to have a touchdown celebration. But all right, real quick. Next one I want to ask is the greatest defender of all time.
This one's easy, and I'll keep it short.
Okay.
Derek Thomas, Kansas City Chiefs. I
Oh,
know
yeah.
everyone's thinking
Not mine.
the who has the most sacks or most interceptions or who's the best lockdown corner. But for the period of time I've watched football, I never saw anyone like Derek Thomas. His career was tragically cut short. But he once had 7 sacks in one game against the Seahawks, and that just boggles my mind. 7 sacks in one game. He
Yeah,
was
that's
essentially unstoppable. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. He was the original, no, maybe not the original, because there was one person I can think of specifically before LT, but he was kind of that hybrid on the edge, right? He's is he
mhm.
a linebacker? Is he a defensive end? Is he a linebacker? Is he a defensive end? They list him as a linebacker, but he could have played either. Derek
Yep.
Thomas.
Derek Thomas, great choice. But this is one that we'll differ on, and I'm going with Lawrence
You're doing
Taylor.
LT.
And it's
Good call.
because
That's what I struggled with. Honestly, was those two.
yeah,
I thought about Reggie White for a
I
minute, but
mean,
I ended up with LT and Derek
yeah.
Thomas, and honestly, I just picked my chief.
I mean, the 7 sacks stat is a great one. The reason I pick LT is simply because he's one of only 2 defensive players to ever win the NFL MVP award.
Ooh, good call.
And so I mean that's a tough thing to do, and he won Defensive Player of the Year as a rookie. So yeah, that right there easily hands down for me is LT. But your choice, I think both of those are great arguments. I don't think either one could be considered lopsided just because we're fandom or anything like that. I think those are 2 solid choices. But next one is a little different. The greatest uniform of all time.
Now we're in my
Had to
zone.
had to throw in a little bit of a different one in there.
Maybe you're a fan of the powder blue.
Mm.
Maybe
Nope.
you're a fan of the creamsicle. I love
Mm.
both of those, but my favorite of all time has to be the Kelly Green Eagles uniform. I know as a
Ugh.
Cowboys fan, it's going to disgust you. And listen, the Eagles just beat
No.
my Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but that Kelly Green Eagles uniform, I love it. And listen, it's gonna date myself, I know, but I specifically remember being a kid and seeing Will Smith wear the Kelly Green Randall Cunningham jersey in an episode of The Fresh Prince. And that was it for me, man. I mean, that guy was the coolest thing I had ever seen in my life. And he's rocking that jersey. I was like, that's the coolest jersey ever. So Kelly Green Eagles jersey with the good Eagle logo, with the Eagle flying, clutching the ball instead of just the
Yeah.
wing. Man, that's it for me.
Uh,
Especially with the
I
helmet.
I have
The
to get
helmet. The helmet's
that.
perfect.
It's a good uniform, and I debated this. I almost went with my Dallas Cowboys, because it's just tried and true. It's just a nice clean look, the white and the blue with the star. But there's one that just kind of surfaced to the top, and that is the Tampa Bay creamsicle that you have hanging in the
Baker, baby.
background. It's just there's no other uniform like it.
It
I mean, there's
shouldn't
just
look good. That's why it
it
always gets people. It's like, do I hate
it
that or do I
shouldn't look good.
love it?
It's just one of those things that you look at it and you're like, I mean, how could you not like it? I mean, it's just got the perfect red. I mean, the perfect orange with the red, highlights. It's just one of those things that I don't know. I look at it and I'm like, and back in the 70s when they originally wore it, the old school helmet. I mean, just
It was
it
bold,
was fun to
and I
watch.
think it's awesome.
Yeah,
But I wanna say real
yeah.
quickly,
So
I think we need to take one quick step back. I think we need to do
okay,
best of all time, the greatest of all time running back.
Oh, I may have
You
forgotten that
got
little one.
you love your receivers so much. We may have just
I
we skipped right past running back. I think we need to do running back.
jumped.
Can I give you mine
Yeah,
real fast?
real
He's
quick, hit
hanging
me with
over
it.
my shoulder. I don't want to hear about Emmitt Smith and all the garbage time yards he got while he
Uh,
was in Arizona. I don't want to hear about. I absolutely love Barry Sanders, but the man could not catch the ball. He was a one-dimensional player. I don't want to hear about Adrian Peterson, an incredible combination of power and speed, but also had stone hands. I'm telling you, for my money, receiving and rushing and just the season he had, in which he's had more touchdowns than any running back ever. Like, listen, for my money, there was never anyone like LT. He maybe didn't have the longevity of some other guys, but that guy could do it all on the field, and he was nearly unstoppable.
Speaking of a career cut short, uh, I have to go with Barry Sanders. There is no one like the man. He was 10 for 10, if you will. 10 seasons, 10 Pro Bowls, never rushed for less than 1,100 yards. I mean, the guy
For the
was the
Lions.
epitome for the Lions. He ran. I mean, his highlight reels are still fun
Yeah,
to
they
watch
are.
to this day. And there was no one that ran like him. I mean, he was completely unstoppable. And the reason I really love him is because he held to his standards and was not. He was willing to just say deuces. And he was
He
I
left
mean,
on
talk
his
about
terms. He left on
sticking.
his terms when
Yeah,
he was ready.
sticking true. He was not willing to play games with the Detroit Lions, and at one point he just said, "You know, I'm done. I'm good.
Also, still
I've
the
accomplished
record
everything."
holder for most rushing yards in a season in college
Yeah,
at Oklahoma State University. Still holds the record for
yeah,
that, I believe. Or if he
yeah.
doesn't,
Uh,
he
he
did for a really long time.
he was on an average team, and he is up there in so many of the stats with only 10 years. Think about if he had lasted as long as Emmitt Smith. I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah, yeah, Emmitt
It
Smith,
I mean,
in his wheelchair for the Cardinals, getting garbage
that
yards and garbage gains, just running up the stats.
point
Not
point
impressed.
being I'm not impressed either, that's why I didn't pick him. But I'm just saying had he lasted longer than 10 seasons, imagine what he could have done, or kinda like Larry, imagine if he had played on a halfway decent team. It would have been amazing to watch,
Oh,
but that's why we're
wait, I'm sorry. Can I give you one goat?
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
wanna wrap the segment. I have one more that I think would
Yeah.
be good goat. I don't mean
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
spring it
yeah.
on
Go
you,
for it.
but I just wanna give you one goat real quick. Give me the goat. Give me your GOAT football movie.
It's a little saying, I mean, everyone's gonna know it. Strong
Left
side.
side,
Strong
left
side.
side.
It's Remember the
That's good.
Titans. Hands down.
Sunshine.
Everywhere we
He's
go,
singing. He's
people
singing on the
wanna
podcast, ladies and
know.
gentlemen.
I mean, it's a classic.
We
Denzel Washington, I mean, it's such an
That's legit.
amazing
Good
movie.
call. Good call.
We watched it every year on the way to youth camp, the 2-hour drive to youth camp every year as a teenager. That was the only, like, clean, safe movie we'd insert it in, watch it. It was a classic. It was amazing.
Nice.
We agree on that, right? Like, that's
I wasn't gonna go there, but I almost wish I had. Like, I guess I probably, you know, should have picked that. But the first one that came to mind for me was Rudy. Like,
Oh, yeah,
5 foot
that's a good one.
nothing, 100 and
Yep.
nothing, barely a speck of athletic talent. I'm like, man,
Yep.
I've never heard so many insults be so inspirational in my life. I loved it.
That's a good one.
And then I
I love
love the
it. I
guy at
love
the
it.
very end who starts the Rudy chant, but like doesn't move his body or show any facial expression. He just goes, Rudy, Rudy. And
Rudy.
then it leads the whole scene. And obviously based on a true story, really, really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Everyone coming in and giving up their jersey. I want Rudy to have my spot. That's a powerful moment, man. That's a
Yep,
preacher's moment. You
that's a
could
good
use
one.
that.
Yeah,
And so
that's a
I
good
love
sermon right there.
Rudy. I'm not being corny or whatever, but you know the whole walk on concept. It's one of the reasons I love Baker
Yep.
Mayfield. Walk on at Texas Tech. Walk on at Oklahoma. Wins the Heisman. 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing, and So everyone loves to root for that kind of person. So for me, it's Rudy, but I mean, that's 1 and 1A, Rudy and
Yeah.
Remember the Titans.
Yeah, that's good. I like
The
that.
only thing better than, a little bit of time watching Rudy and Remember the Titans is a little bit of time with a great biblical devotion. And so we are, gonna have right now what we call the moment of truth, and Scott Jakeway is bringing it your way.
Thank you, Alex. In this episode, we were talking about the greats and the goats and, our favorite memories. And it got me thinking, have you ever noticed in football, it's not always the first hit that changes the game, but it's the response. We see, in Rudy, he how did he respond in that moment? Remember the Titans? How did they respond when everything was going against them and one of their best players gets injured? I mean, it's a classic question in football and really in sports and in life. But if you're thinking in the terms of football, I kind of wrote it down like this: your team gives up a big play, the quarterback throws an interception, Brock Purdy, or some of these guys that have thrown multiple picks in a game. You miss an open tackle, or it's something that's not even your fault. The ref makes a terrible call. Right there in that moment, the scoreboard isn't the real issue. The real question is, how are you going to respond? Some players, they drop their heads. Some blame a teammate. Some get chirpy and take a dumb penalty from the ref. And then there are those players that and teams really that get locked in. They look at each other and they say, "We're good. Next play, let's go." And those are the teams that are dangerous. Not because they've never messed up, but because of how they respond when they do. And I want to talk today about the same question in life. And in our walk with God, how do we respond? Football has blitzes. You just talked about the old great 7 sacks in a single game. And the question is in life when you get blitzed, when you get sacked, we have to realize that that's part of life. A bad diagnosis, a breakup or a betrayal from a friend, a financial pressure, a family drama, a sin that you really thought you had tackled and overcame, and it seems to creep back into your life. But the thing we have to remember is we don't always choose our circumstances, but we always get to choose our response. Bible is full of people who had to decide, how am I going to respond right now? The biggest one that comes to mind is Paul and Silas. How they were in Acts 16. Let me just paint the picture a little bit for you. Paul and Silas are thrown into prison, but it's not because they robbed someone or not because they did something wrong. It's because they were preaching Jesus and set a girl free from a demon. Their reward for such an amazing task: beaten, chained, thrown into a prison. And if anybody could say, "Hey, that's a bad call. That's a bad play," it was them. If they had any right to complain, they could have sat in that prison cell saying, "God, where are you?" They could have said, "Hey, this isn't fair." They could have been complaining. They could have been nudging the prisoners beside them, saying like, "Hey, can you believe that this is why we're sitting here in this prison?" But no, they did something completely different. The Bible says at about midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing to God, and their other prisoners were listening. And in that short moment, they began to blitz their situation with worship. And what happened next? An earthquake happened. The chains began to fall off. The doors were open. And not only were they set free, but the jailer and his whole household met Jesus. All of it started with a response. So you have to remember, you can't always control the hit, but you can control the response. In football, there are plenty of things that players and coaches cannot control. They can't control the weather. They can't control the crowd. They can't control how the ref is going to call the game. And they can't control how the other team is going to play. But what they can control is their attitude, their effort, their words, their focus. And in life, it's the exact same. I mean, literally the exact same. When life hits you, you can't control the home that you grew up in. You can't control the things that people did to you. You can't control the mistakes that you made yesterday because they're already in the past. You can't control the situations that you're facing now. But what you can control is your attitude, your effort, your words, and your focus. Christ is the way you respond. In Christ, you choose how to respond. I'm reminded, Alex, of 1 Peter 3:9. It says, not to return evil for evil or insult for insult, but to give a blessing instead. Jesus told us in Matthew 5 to love our enemies. In fact, you talked about this not too long ago, to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. That doesn't mean what happened to us is okay. It means that you're not going to let what they did to you determine who you are going to become. And that perfect example is Jesus. He's the model response. If you look at Jesus' life, when he was insulted, he didn't insult back. When he was mocked, he stayed on the mission given. And when he was hung on a cross, he said simply, Father, forgive them. His response was always rooted in love, obedience, and trust. And if you put your faith in him, like we do as Christians, that same Jesus lives in us through the Holy Spirit, Alex. That means we're not stuck with our old reactions, where we might used to respond with anger or bitterness or offense. You're not stuck with your old temper, your old habits, or your old response patterns. In Christ, you begin to respond differently. So here's the question I want to end with. How do you respond? How do you respond when life hits you? How do you respond when people, maybe even the people closest to you, hurt you? How do you respond when God convicts you? Or how do you respond when you mess up and you realize in that moment that you were the one that dropped the ball? Today, I believe that God is calling us to check our response because it is not what happens, it's how we respond.
Scott, that's a great reminder because, like you said, every single day there are moments that we have to respond to situations and circumstances we didn't
Yeah.
create. So it's a reminder that I need because if I'm being transparent, my first response is not usually my first instinct is not usually the right
Yeah.
response. And so
Yeah.
you and I both talked a little bit this year in different previous podcasts and previous devotions about the fruit of the Holy Spirit. And the last one
Yeah.
on the list is self-control. And so,
Self-control.
Holy Spirit, please help all of us to have the self-control we need so we can do exactly what Scott taught about tonight from your word, which is to respond and to respond in the ways of Jesus. And so
Amen.
we pray that over you and over all of our listeners, and we thank you for listening and for taking the time to listen to all of our favorites of all of these things. I'm sure all of our listeners were yelling and thinking of all of their favorites and least favorites and their goats of all time. So if you have any reaction for us, please feel free to reach out to the podcast. You can reach us on social media or directly via our email, inspiredsportspodcast@gmail.com. And so we thank you for listening to Inspired Sports, your place for clean sports talk with real inspiration.